After an underwhelming rookie year on one of the worst teams in football, many wrote Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars right off the page. And it seemed like this year was going to be more of the same. But as of late, things have looked pretty good for the former Clemson Tiger. So let's talk about it.
Lawrence on the move, looking, throws, end zone, touchdown! Zay Jones!
After dominating in his time at Clemson, Trevor Lawrence had about as much hype as any quarterback out of college. So it was not much of a surprise that he went so high off the board.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence.
Even though he had one of the most impressive college careers of any quarterback, bringing the Jaguars back to relevancy was a very tall task, and so it put Trevor in a difficult spot going into his first year with the team. The fact that Urban Meyer, a coach that had never done anything in the league, was in his first season as well made it seem like a disaster in the making. And you know what? It kinda was.
Breaks a tackle, throwing on the run, and overthrew it and intercepted. And his goal line, and throwing and intercepted again.
For someone who wasn't used to losing at any level, I'm sure Trevor was shell-shocked by the 3-14 rookie season he had in Duval. But let's just say that his 17 interceptions to only 12 touchdowns didn't make it seem all that surprising. Trevor went from the top of the football world in Death Valley to the lowest of lows on one of the most underwhelming teams in the league, as he got one of the biggest reality checks possible. Considering just how much he had won on every single level of football, it was inevitable that something had to give, and I guess it just so happened to be in Duval.
This video of Meyer, apparently taken at his restaurant in Columbus, shows a woman, not his wife, getting up close and personal.
It didn't help that his coach was out creating buzz for all the wrong reasons why Trevor was trying to find his own. But then again, what is success without failure?
How good has he been? Lawrence's pass deflected, and it is picked!
No matter how you say it, Jacksonville played like, well, Jacksonville, with Trevor struggling game after game on arguably the worst team in the league. So as you could guess, it seemed inevitable that near the end of the season, the Jaguars decided to fire Urban and were looking to change the culture going into the following year. Once again, they had a first overall pick, and after getting studs like Trevor and Travis Etienne the previous year, this time they were looking to build up their defense a bit.
Trayvon Walker, linebacker, Georgia. Devin Lloyd, linebacker, Utah.
Trayvon and Devin were big pickups for a team that needed help wherever they could get it. But nonetheless, going into the season, the expectations were low for what the Jaguars would do, considering the extremely underwhelming last few years. Although expectations were mediocrely low as always, just like every other season, there was a great deal of hope that the tides would turn in Duval, and maybe, just maybe, that Trevor would play like he did at Clemson. Week 1 rolled around, and a matchup against the Commanders seemed like an interesting way to start off the year. And although Trevor played decent, it wasn't enough to win, as Carson Wentz's 4 touchdowns put them away.
Draw pressure on, gets rid of it. Sideline throw. He's got Terry McLaurin. And that's a Washington Commander touchdown.
Not the greatest way to start off the season, but the Jaguars were able to respond quick with back-to-back wins against Indy and LA. After a solid little run, it seemed like things were pointing up for the fellows in Duval, until they went out and lost the next 5 games straight. After a pretty solid start, losing game after game was a tough pill to swallow for not just the Jaguars, but Trevor especially. After losing to Denver and London to cap off the streak, although painful, Trevor watched the entire game film the second he got on the plane back home, as he relived the 2 interceptions that led to the disappointing loss over and over again. All this in mind, it was not too good a day for Trevor, as he felt like he not just let himself down, but the entire team, and in his own words, didn't want to feel like that again. That moment of self-reflection and determination seemed to be the spark that the Clemson star needed to get back to business once again.
Lawrence throwing, end zone. Caught at the back of the end zone. Away, steps in, has a man. Jones is open. He's got it.
It may have taken a year and a half, but following the loss in London, a switch flipped for Trevor, and since that game, he has played as well as any quarterback in football. Following the plane ride, Trevor's had 15 touchdowns, along with just 4 turnovers, as his nearly 1,700 yards and 70% completion percentage passing have helped the Jags win 4 of their last 6. Keep in mind that one of the 2 losses was against the Chiefs, while the other was against the on-fire Lions. So for the most part, Jacksonville has been on their A-game. As of writing this, they're sitting at 6-8, following a rough 2-6 start, and are arguably coming off their best win in a comeback effort against Dallas.
Lawrence lofting, has Kirk. Oh, he's got it! What a catch!
But comebacks are nothing new for this team, as all their wins the past few weeks have come from behind. But as Trevor would say, the team's confidence grows after each win. And since they beat one of the very best teams in football, he could very well be right. But there's still a ways to go before they get to the place that I'm sure they're shooting for, the playoffs. Following a pretty rough start to say the least, the playoffs seem like a dream at best, but now with the Jaguars sitting at 6-8 and coming off of some big wins against Tennessee and Dallas, it's somehow become possible. Currently, the Jaguars are the 10th seed, just below the Titans, Patriots, and Jets, a team that they're currently going up against the day after me writing this. If they can find a way to beat New York, and if Tennessee loses to the Texans, then there's a shot that the Jaguars could jump up a few spots. So although the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals are pretty much untouchable, if Jacksonville can win 2 or 3 of their last few games, they could very well have a shot at the illustrious 7th seed. In that hypothetical, they would probably go up against a team like Buffalo or KC, and it would be asking quite a bit for them to pull off an upset. But hey, you never know what is possible with Trevor Lawrence under center.
They fake the pitch, Lawrence to run or throw. He's going to throw! He's got Christian Kirk!
Through 14 games this year, Trevor's passed for over 3,400 yards and 24 touchdowns, along with only 7 interceptions. A surprisingly solid second-year stat line, and a stat line good enough for him to potentially make a Pro Bowl appearance. Even if Jacksonville doesn't find a way to the playoffs, and even if they lose their last few games, they have already doubled their win total from the previous year, so they've at least done something right, and that's a good start. But honestly, considering how well Trevor is playing, I think they'll be able to keep the same momentum throughout the rest of the year, and a 9-8 record could very well be enough to earn them a chance at the postseason. Keep in mind that for Trevor, this might as well be his rookie year because of the train wreck that was last season. So I think his recent performance is very telling about what the future could be in Duval.
Coming, rolls away, steps in, has a man, Jones is open, he's got it inside the 10!
Although Joe Burrow is in a much different situation in Cincinnati, what's happening with Trevor is reminding me of his rookie year, because both came out as number 1 picks and both struggled in their first season. But once things started clicking, they became tough to stop and helped lead unlikely franchises out of the mud. Maybe it's a bad comparison, maybe Trevor's a much different player, but I can't help but see something unique in the way that he's been playing the last few weeks. And a big portion of that is because of his determination to perform as well as he knows that he can. Honestly, if he could keep that switch flicked on going into next season, maybe Jacksonville can take over a division that is anything but consistent, especially one that is as open as the AFC South. Somehow, as of writing this, the Jaguars are only 1 game behind the Titans, and so considering the fact that they beat them only a few weeks ago, the idea of the two matching up again in the last week of the year has become more and more interesting as we get closer to it. Who would have thought that the Jaguars would be in this spot?
Who would have thought?
Definitely not me. But that's what happens when a great player flips the switch. And honestly, it seems like Trevor may be the only one who's done it in his draft class, because even Mac hasn't been able to put together such a string of consistently impressive performances, especially on a team that is known for being as bad as Jacksonville. To add on to all the stuff I've already talked about, what makes Trevor's play that much more interesting is that he's done it in Duval, not in Kansas City, not in Buffalo, LA, not in any of those places, but on a Jaguars team that has never truly had a star quarterback. No hate against guys like Mark Brunell or Byron Leftwich, but based on how well Trevor has played the last few weeks, the Jaguars could be a contender sooner than later, even in a pretty packed AFC. New pieces like Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and Trevor's button ETN have all flipped a switch as well, it seems, and it's making the offense more and more difficult to stop. Just imagine if those guys get more and more comfortable with Trevor under center. Let's just say Jacksonville could be a very interesting team for years to come, and that's definitely not something many could have guessed. But anyways, what do you guys think? Is Trevor Lawrence the guy to lead the Jaguars out of the darkness? Or do they still got a ways to go before that's even a thought? Comment down below what you think. Trevor Lawrence has only known winning from the time that he was a kid till his dominance at Clemson. So let's just say that his time in Jacksonville has been a massive reality check, but it seems like it's only made him better than ever. So sit back and watch The Trevor Show.
It is there, the pass is long to the end zone, it's caught by Marvin Jones!
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.